Hey, Mike, what made you pick up the microphone?
I was 9 years old, and man, this group called Run DMC, and they were dressed in all black. One of them was cocky as shit. The other one was surefire confident, even though he wore glasses. And the DJ looked like everybody's cool uncle, man. And they honestly made music that I understood, I could imitate and emulate, but it felt as big as rock and roll. And, you know, for a black kid coming out of, born in the 70s, what you heard was a lot of soul music, funk music. So you didn't really, you didn't know about black people in rock and roll. So, you know, you would have Motley Crue, Van Halen. Their music made you feel like that. And it was like, oh my God, who are these two dudes? And my mom let me go to a show later. But when I remember seeing Run DMC and it was just those two dudes and a DJ on stage, I was just like, this is what I want to do in my life. And fast forward 20, 30 years, I'm sitting here in an all-black denim suit, mostly because of, you know, Daryl and Joe.
But to add to this, I want you to focus in on my last calls. You'll notice you scroll down to about the fifth one on the list. It's got the words DMC on it.
Okay.
I literally had an hour-long conversation today with Daryl on the phone. I was born the same year as Mike. I was living in Brooklyn. Run DMC.
Right.
And I told him on the phone today, I told Daryl, I said, listen, man. I said, you guys are our biggest inspiration. I said, when me and Mike get on stage and we're wearing all black denim, it's because you guys existed. Yeah. It's because we're trying to bring with Run the Jewels the type of powerful rap show that's just two rappers and a DJ and some lights and some props, and we're trying to bring back that powerful rap show experience. But when Run DMC came out for a New Yorker, they were the first ones that came out that were dressed like normal people, that looked like you felt like you could look like them if you wanted, you could dress like them, you could have their attitude, because I recognize it as a New York thing. They were my superheroes, you know? It was like Spider-Man was from New York, Run DMC was from New York. My whole career, my whole love of being a rapper, everything started at 10 years old trying to be Run DMC. And today, I was on the phone for the first time with my hero from Run DMC.
They grew up to be absolutely, you know, decent human beings, you know, through whatever trial and tribulation. When you look at Joey Simmons, you know what I mean, who was literally the most arrogant, wild, fly, shit-talking, you know, guy in the 80s. And I mean that in the best way, because as an MC, you had to be that, you know what I mean? When you saw Run on stage, man, you never would have thought, like, Run's gonna end up being a humble preacher that's giving marriage advice to guys like me. Like, I have met DMC before, and I met him in the context of being in Cook County Jail, speaking to some juveniles. Ryan Fest knows both of us and thought we should know each other and put us together, so I got to spend a day with D. And Daryl McDaniels, man, is one of the best human beings I had ever met. You know, he rides Harley Davidsons. I didn't expect DMC to be, but when I look back, he wore all black. He was definitely be a badass. But man, I saw him interact with kids that were, you know, that were in a bad circumstance in the most caring and compassionate way. And they had an idea of who he is. They know this guy's famous, but they didn't understand that you just don't get that. You don't get someone who steps from Rap Mount Olympus to make sure kids in Cook County Jail know that they have an opportunity beyond that. So even in just real regular life, I have been very much inspired by Run and D, you know what I mean? So I appreciate them on all levels, you know, I really do.
And just the idea that you can be a badass and you can have personal power and be a good person at the same time, and that the two are the same thing in a lot of ways. And also they projected a power when I was a kid that I wanted to be a part of. Absolutely. I was like, yo, I want that power. They're not flashy, you know, a little bit. They had the gold chain, you know what I mean? But for the most part, it was like, these aren't dudes that are about anything but, like, you know, personal power, intelligence, fun, and being badasses. And like, I think that really, that's when we imagine what Run the Jewels is, what our legacy could be, we still base it on those principles, those ideas. We want to be badasses, we want to be dangerous, but because we're good people too, we care. And I look at Run DMC as, maybe they didn't have to say that directly, it didn't matter, but you just felt it from them. You know?
Every single one of us in here, before we are a race, before we are a religion, before we are a culture, before we are given a nationality or a country or an identity, We are simply human beings. Look around you tonight. You are looking at one of the most precious things to ever grace the universe, and that is simply another human being. Make some noise for yourself. Now,
you're one of the few, if not only artists, that appeals to everyone. I say this all the time, you've got every audience locked. You get the new kids, you get the aging B-boys, you get the hipsters, you get the rap connoisseurs, black, white, regardless, everybody. And your sound is very, you got the boom bap vibe, and then you got the trap vibe as well. How do you do it?
When we merged our crowds, a lot of people who knew Mike didn't know me, a lot of people who knew me didn't know Mike. And I think that we had basically 15, 20 years of creating our own fan bases. When we came together, we put them together, and it worked. And it didn't, and you know, I think a lot of people were just open to the music. We're not just one thing. You're not listening to a kid from Brooklyn. You're not listening to a kid from Atlanta. When I make a record now, I'm not making a Brooklyn record. You know, I'm not making an Atlanta record either, but it's bigger because I'm next to my partner. I'm bigger. It's bigger because that song is infused with his influence and vice versa. And all of a sudden you got something that is not easily defined by region, you know? It's not easily defined by genre. You know, we're not these dudes, we're not coming out on some like, we're old school, this is old school rap. We don't look at it like that. We've always been about the future, you know? But we do have principles that come from there that are intertwined into the way that we do our thing. And so I'm very grateful for what you said. Like, I'm very grateful for the fact that we do have that mixture of audiences, because I don't think either of us would feel too great about it being just one thing.
You give away your albums for free, right?
Yeah.
But your chart positions go up with each album.
Yeah.
So it's like,
isn't that something? We discovered really early on, you know, that we wanted to compete for people's hearts and their minds. We figured, you know, if you hear the music and you really dig it, you're gonna support us. Like, and if you don't, it's just because you don't really support music anyway, or you don't like us, and therefore then you shouldn't support us. So that was the deal we made with the fans. Here's what we can give to you. If you fuck with us, then you'll be inspired to come and you'll be inspired to go to our show. Now we're playing for 3,500 people in London. But we also know it grew because people made a real choice. People were like, we fuck with you. We gave them the option and they checked the yes box, you know? And there's something just so special about that relationship where you know that everyone in that audience knows that if they wanted to, they don't have to pay a dime to hear Run the Jewels.
I've always maintained third member's audience. Like, you know, a lot of this shit is built on live show. We perform as intentionally for 300 people as we did 3,500 people. You know what I mean? Because we appreciate 300 people as much as we appreciate 3,500 people. I personally do, you know? So for me, you know, I think that that's something not to be understated. You know, I saw Run DMC in an arena. You know, rap had kind of gotten regulated and degraded into this smaller secondary thing, even though it made so much money for companies. So the audience is important. And I think that's why our audience is diverse. There's something about them that lets them know that they're sincerely appreciated, they're taken seriously, and like Elle said, we're shooting for your hearts, you know?
We have never given an unepic show in London, and that is partially because of the amazing fucking crowds. London, make some motherfucking noise!
It is a fucking honor to be back in your city. Thank you so much for coming and seeing us tonight.
as a duo, like, you signify unity, which there isn't a lot of in the world right now. And, you know, I don't want to start talking about the Orange one and everything else that's going on. It's well documented. But at the end of the day, you'd see, you know, Danny Glover, Mel Gibson, Lethal Weapon.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying you're that, but you never really saw that in reality.
Just to be fair, I mean, to a degree we did though. I mean, my friends were very diverse. You know, just even growing up. When we think about it, we're like, yeah, we do very simply and very plainly without saying it, because there's no point in talking about it. We do represent something that is more about love than it is about something else, you know? We know that when we stand up there together and we put a fist up together, or we put our arm around each other and show people like this is real for us, we know that that's a moment that someone can take away from that, you know? And I think that's it. We provide a space that people at our shows and the community of people that come to see us, that people are craving too, which is like, yo, you know that you can go one place and the crowd is one thing. You know you can go to another place and the crowd is another thing. There's also this other space that's being created just as much by the fans that is by us. That's this other feeling like, you know what would be really cool though, is if we all hung out, you know? And you know what would be really cool? If you had a friend that wasn't like you, you know? And if you knew that person, and if you felt something for that person, and then you know, and you stood with that person because it was real for you, because it was natural. So I always hope personally that translates, you know, but you never want to say it, you know, that's not the point. We're not explaining to you why we're friends. We are friends. Yeah. I don't have to explain to you anything, and if you don't get it, it doesn't matter, because that's not what friendship is. You know, friendship isn't you did an interview. I didn't fill out a fucking questionnaire to become Mike's friends. Do you know? Yeah. I just fell in love with the dude because we think alike, and and I'm amused by him, and I love him, and I see his heart, and I'm a fan of who he is, and that's why I'm a friend. So
I know you've had 4 comic covers. I think the dopest one was the Cage one. That was like
5 now, because
they
5? Just did the Fun Crusher Plus one.
Okay. I was watching Iron Fist, and then I hear you join. Like, that must have been a trip for you guys, right?
My son Pony hit me. He's 14 years old, and Pony just hit me out of nowhere. Like, Dad, I'm watching this on, and I'm just like, his whole high school watches this show, and all of a sudden his 40-year-old dad is relevant to a 14-year-old, and it's pretty amazing to me, because, you know, my dad introduced me to comic books. You know, I talk about my dad and destroying his toy collection and shit. So, you know, I have an opportunity to live in that world, because in the 80s when we were kids, it was all together. Karate flicks, kung fu fucking movies, rap, skateboarding, BMX, and fucking comics were all together. So for that world at 40 to reunite and you be the crux of that, it's a dream come true. It's what you imagine. It's what I imagined being a rapper would be like in 5th grade. Right. You know, later being a rapper became something else. When I was in 5th grade, I was gonna be on comic books. I was gonna be a rapper. I was gonna have the skateboard friends and shit. Yeah, be a ninja. You know, and I've accomplished 3 or 5 of those things. You know what I mean?
I literally spoke to DMC about comic books and rap music. You know, he wrote the foreword to the collection of all the hip hop variant covers that Marvel's putting on. He wrote the foreword, and he was like, I was a comic fan. That's how I got into rap music. Even DMC from Run DMC said that, and so, you know, we were the same way. We were in the art and we were in the comics. So for that to be popping, it's crazy. It's like, it's insane.
So what happens next?
We don't know what happens next, and that's what's beautiful. We just know we'll be competing with what we're doing now.
We're not really a planned operation, you know? This whole thing started just for fun.
Like this, let's rob a bank.
Yeah, all right. Well, want to rob it tomorrow? Yeah, tomorrow's good. Tomorrow's good. We'll do more music. I think that you're gonna see us doing other things too. We're gonna expand into film and TV. And you know, I think that we're a creative enterprise. We're a friendship and a creative enterprise. So we're gonna be doing a lot of shit together in the next 10, 20 years. I don't see it stopping. Will it change and morph, and will be different projects that we work on and have different things? Probably, yeah. But we're musicians, so, you know, when we get done touring the world, as tired as we're gonna be, we're gonna look at each other and we're probably gonna be like, let's go in the studio again, because it's too fun. It's too fun.